Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name's Eileen. I'm with the Thomas Crane Public Library. And today we're talking to Jane O'Neill of Culturally Curious. She's going to be doing a program for us online on Monday, September 28th at 7 p.m. And you can join us on YouTube, Facebook, or on Zoom. And welcome, Jane.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, good to see you. So can you tell us a little bit about your background with Culturally Curious and how you got into art and what you're going to be talking about in our program on the 28th?
Sure, I'd love to. So my background is in art history and in education, and I have a master's degree in both of those things. And it basically means, I always say to people, it basically means that I really like looking at pictures, but I really love talking to groups about them. So I put together Culturally Curious. Today's actually the 3rd anniversary of Culturally Curious. I'm so happy.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And what Culturally Curious does is it brings groups together to look at and talk about art. And I have a lot of fun putting the programs together and then facilitating them. And they can be on a variety of subjects. I did Van Gogh at the Thomas Crane Library earlier this year. But Norman Rockwell is such an American icon. We're all sort of familiar with him. He makes people feel good, but he had his own interesting evolution in terms of how he approached the subject of race. And then I think what most people don't know is that he ends up leaving the famous Saturday Evening Post, where he had almost a 50-year career, so that he could explore and represent the issues of race in America more freely. Yeah.
I had no idea about that. And you know, people do recognize a few of his famous works. I think the one with the police officer sitting next to the child at the counter, and of course the famous Ruby Bridges artwork. And I assume that's a couple that you'll be talking about?
I definitely the Ruby Bridges one. I sort of started off talking about inclusion and exclusion, just really broad terms, because I think everybody sort of has a notion of what Norman Rockwell's artwork is like and how we connect with it, how he was such a powerful storyteller, and he could show an image that we can instantly connect with. And sometimes those images were about making us feel like Americans. And sometimes those images were making us, helping us to connect with what it feels like to be isolated. And so those were the big broad brushstrokes. And then I sort of show what the Saturday Evening Post was doing during the 1930s and the 1940s, and how Norman Rockwell was responding to that with his artwork and then in his own personal life, and then why he decides to make a departure from there.
Oh, wow. That is very interesting. Yeah, I had no idea that he had departed to really focus on those types of issues. Yeah. That's not something that I learned in school.
Right. It's like when we think of Norman Rockwell, we just think, middle-class America, post-World War II, everything's good. Like when we talk about Norman Rockwell moments, when I look at my own kids and I'm like, oh, this is a Norman Rockwell scene, you just think, quintessential American middle-class happiness, right?
Right.
But right after he left the Saturday Evening Post, he actually sent money into the NAACP for a lifetime membership. So race was at the forefront of his mind. And I think that, again, this is such a great program to talk about it, because I think people who are sort of at any level of comfort talking about race, whether it's like you're brand new to it or you're pretty steeped in it, this is like a good starting point, because Norman Rockwell is so safe and he's so familiar,
Right.
And we see him sort of slowly inching towards, being a more progressive thinker.
Yeah. So this is definitely something that's timely. It's something that's going on in America right now that we probably will, relate to, I would imagine. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
And it's funny because I originally put together this talk at the beginning of this year, back in January, and it touches on all these different things that have since become these big touch point conversations throughout the year. So it's interesting to think about how all of these things sort of keep kind of emerging in our national conversations, and how they're still sensitive and they still need to be explored. And again, Norman Rockwell helps us do that in a very safe way.
Right. I hope that we get, get some good conversation going with that, and see how art and current events kind of relate to each other. So it should be very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and the best part of this is that it's actually uplifting too. I think everybody who experiences this program sort of comes away feeling better. I facilitated a lot of these programs back at the beginning of the year when you could still do it in person. And I brought it to so many groups, and the people had tears in their eyes afterwards, and they were like hugging and telling me about their personal experiences. And I think it brings out the best in us, and I think people come away from it feeling better. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's amazing that art can do that for us. I am personally a huge art fan too, and thrilled that we get to offer this, and hopefully that'll evolve conversations too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So excellent. So do you have anything else to add about what you're going to be speaking about, or is this a good little teaser and get people excited about it?
This is the good teaser. I mean, I could get so into it right now, but there's a lot of, I think, revelations as you go through it too. So I don't want to spoil the fun. Yeah.
So there'll be definitely some learning times in there, and we look forward to that. So again, thank you for joining us, Jane. Again, that was Jane O'Neill from Culturally Curious, and she's going to be speaking about Norman Rockwell and his evolving views on race Monday, September 28th at 7 p.m. online. And visit us at thomascranelibrary.org to find all the links on how you can join and learn about Norman Rockwell. So thank you very much, Jane.
Thank you. See you then.
See ya.